The weather and the climate are making news in more than one region.
Severe flooding has killed at least 72 people.
Under siege in the grip of unmitigated catastrophe.
Look at the 10 hottest years ever measured. They've all occurred in the last 14 years. And the hottest of all was 2005.
Global warming. It is a scam.
We'll realize that there is no global warming of significance.
So right now, the only global warming strategy that might work worldwide may be to pray.
If climate change is true and we take no action, we find ourselves in a situation of catastrophe.
The fact that so many people in power want to believe that it's not really happening is frightening.
We'll see some catastrophes, either climate shifts, maybe some abrupt climate change, some extreme storms.
I mean, there's indications that this could be a very rapid change, that it could happen, in a matter of years and not in a matter of decades. So coastlines today will not be coastlines in that future world. And the important part about that is most of the global populations are clustered around the coasts. So yeah, it is a significant threat to life as we know it.
Is global warming something you're concerned about at all?
Short term, no.
Yes, I think consciously on a day-to-day, I don't think about it as much.
Right now, I worry more about finals than I do about climate change.
Honestly, it is something that isn't on my radar.
I haven't had one conversation about climate change with my family, with my friends, except for the ones that were in my class, or any of that sort. It's like it's non-existent, like it's not even happening.
Almost every level of government and every scientific organization has come out with the idea that humans are generating this anthropogenic climate change, is what they would call it. It's human driven, and it's not real hard to understand. The planet at one time had much higher, 250 times higher carbon dioxide ratios in the atmosphere, and over time plants pulled that carbon dioxide out, put it into their organic matter, and buried it beneath the ground. Millions of years later, that turned to oil, and we're now pumping it back out into the atmosphere. So this is that we've never had a species that ever dug it up and threw it in the atmosphere before. I mean, clearly this is unprecedented.
It's a hot topic politically, and everyone's got a side. The culture at large, especially the politicians, is that global climate change is accepted as a political position. And so because of that, it doesn't rely, I don't think, fully on the science.
There's a lot of ingrained attitude now that will just deny science. The credibility of science has been allowed itself to, and been questioned on enough cases that ideology is probably easier for people than scientific understanding.
You cold? With all the snow and whatnot? Where's your global warming now, huh?
It's one thing to not do anything about it, but just completely deny that it's even happening is even worse almost.
A group that I would call climate contrarians, people that are just looking for ways to derail the conversation. When we started going through the discussion about the harmful effects of smoking tobacco, the tobacco manufacturers were able to identify scientists that would argue that the evidence for the health effects or the cancer-producing parts of cigarette smoking wasn't strong. And they just kept saying, well, we need to do more studies,
In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?"
One of the most interesting things that you find when you go back and you look at these climate contrarians now, it's largely the same group of scientists.
The evidence isn't there, they're split, they're divided. Do you ever think that maybe you're wrong about global warming?
Controversy sells, and whipping up controversy and debate and trying to paint the other side as evil or self-interested or trying to somehow do something with bad intent makes money for media.
It has created sort of a false impression that the scientific community is not in agreement, where it honestly is.
The media has its own perception, and its journalistic ethic is that they show both sides of a story. And I think that often transcends the rationality of how many people are on one side and how many people are on the other.
About how this has turned out.
Pretty much understood that global warming is anthropogenic or man-made, and there are a few people out there that are still, holdouts out there, and it's very only at the margins people are disagreeing, but they disagree according to their own words.
Feel like their data is concrete, that have enough supporting evidence shows it is there, but as to how much of a threat is it to us, I think that's all subjective.
Those that say, hey, this is a major problem, those that say, hey, it's not a big problem, and then you get all this crap with possibly stuff being fudged and lied about. I don't know. Everyone seems to have an agenda about it.
And I think in some sense it plays to our own psychology, in that if all of a sudden we want to deny it's a problem, well, they can't agree, see, it's not, no one can agree, then it helps and reinforces that denial.
We know that it's bad for us, but somehow we can justify.
But until we get cancer, until like a city gets flooded from rising oceans, and then like something might start getting done about it. Then that's when you stop smoking.
Everyone has a natural tendency to think that all the beliefs they have are true. That's just how human beings are, right? You don't walk around thinking, well, a lot of my things I believe are false. If you thought that, you would probably change them.
If presented with a problem and we think we can do something about it, we act and we address the problem. If presented with a problem which we don't think we have any way to impact, we deny. It's not that we don't act, it's that we deny that it's even a problem. Because if it is a problem, we can't act about it, that creates cognitive dissonance within our brains and literally starts the stress levels and the acids in our head, and we stop thinking.
I don't know. I don't think it would. I don't think we are making as devastating of an impact as people think. I wouldn't say we need to make drastic changes in our lifestyle yet.
It's good to cause cognitive dissonance in people because it forces them, if they're thinking, to make some kind of adjustments in their belief system.
Yeah, if it says, yeah, it is human-made and it is human contribution is big, then I guess it would be time to start arguing over a solution. But what do? Tell people they can only have so many kids? Tell people they can't spend their money on pools and planes and cars? I mean, what do you do? If you're talking to people who can't relate, then they're not going to relate at all. If you're talking to people who grew up in the inner city, who've never had any contact with anything green, how can they relate to that message? Exposing people to the value of the earth is important. And I think just on this last course we taught, 226, we talked a lot about the Red Rocks Wilderness. How it's been up for a wilderness area since the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. It goes up almost every year and it's defeated almost every year. Yeah. And it's something like 9 million acres or some huge amount of land in Utah that people want to protect. And I think just when we went into 226, people probably weren't even thinking about that. But when they come out of it, they're thinking, oh, this needs to be protected. This needs to be preserved. And I think that kind of thing helps because they see it and they want it to stay there. And in my imagination, I see them thinking, I want to have this for my children and my children's children. And maybe my students aren't thinking that far ahead, but maybe they are.
Where we want, not just more education, more forests, beat it into them, scare them more, be more threatening. None of that's going to work. Because it really does go against the hardwire that we have. We have to give people solutions that they can, inspire them with a new alternative that they could have. I mean, people won't leave this one until they have another one. We cling to things, right?
The attitudes and the perspectives of the students that I have the opportunity to work with has changed dramatically. I no longer hear nearly as much skepticism about climate change. More I see an inquiry about, okay, what are the solutions? What do we do?
As George Carlin says, the planet's not going anywhere. It's people that are going away. So even the worst case scenario isn't that bad, because the Earth will still be here, and that's totally beautiful, and that's a cool thing. So something else will happen besides Homo sapiens. So that's the most dire scenario. So even the most dire scenario isn't. It's not like the little blue ball is going to just blow up. It'll just keep going on, and some other thing will appear. So that keeps me from despair, I think.
It's really cool.